What you are about to watch is a recording from the live session where Manan explains the basic of web development, walks through an example site, and provides valuable resources for you to get started. Stay tuned to know how you can get your journey started as a web developer.
So today, what we're going to do is basically dive into front end web development and help many of you guys get started with it. So it's going to be from the very scratch. So if you have even no experience with it, don't worry because we're going to take you from the very basics and teach you some of the fundamentals. So integrally, there are two parts of a website, that is front end and back end. Front end is basically what the user interacts with. What you see in your browser, that's the UI, that's the front end. And the back end is the server where all the logic and the database and the stuff goes. And today we don't have to worry about backend because we're going to be focusing on how to get started with front end. So front end is basically comprised of three languages majorly, as you can see right over here in CodePen 2: HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. HTML is basically just the part that gives the structure to your page. It's where all your, it's basically a markup language. It's not a programming language. Don't fight me on that. It gives the structure to your page, basically what elements are where and what all is on your page. And CSS is basically what styles your page. It stands for cascading style sheets. So it is basically used to style your website. And this is just a platform, CodePen, which is an online sandbox kind of where you can play around with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to make things right in the web. It's obviously not meant for production use. Like you don't want to create whole web apps in this, but it's pretty neat for playing around. So we'll dive right into the basics of HTML. And first of all, there's a concept in HTML known as tags, which is integral, of course. There are multiple tags in HTML. Everything in HTML comes between a tag. So the basic ones are like there's a tag div, and you put anything inside it, right? So as you can see, I have this div right here, and this basically this area simulates what will be visible in a browser. So that being said, I'll walk you through the basic structure of a HTML page. So basically, it comprises of the HTML tag at the top. Like this tag includes everything else inside it. And the second one is the head tag. Head is basically the stuff that is additional info and where you link other stuff. It's not whatever is in the head isn't visible on your page. And the third major thing is body tag. So the body tag is special because whatever is inside the body tag, that will be rendered on the browser. Only the contents of the body tag, right? So this is where all your major content will go, everything basically. So we don't need to write all this right now because what CodePen does is it just wants us to write the stuff that we will usually put inside the body tag, and this it will basically inject all that all the other markup itself, and all we need to do is write the stuff that we would write in the body tag, and it should show up as a normal markup. So first of all, the few basic tags that we want to look at is div, which I showed you guys before. Div is just uh, like used to represent a division on your page. It can be used to wrap around elements and whatnot. The second one are a few heading tags. So for headings, we use this h1 to h6 tags. So I'll show you right here. This heading text we have wrapped around with h1, so it comes in a much more bold and enlarged size. And so the thing is, we have 6 tags of this sort, h1, and now I change this to h2, and as you can see, automatically the size will shrink down because h1 is the biggest heading, and then h2, and then h3, yeah, and this will shrink down even more. So like this, we have till h6. H1 is the biggest one, and the H6 is the smallest one. And CodePen has a lot of neat features that can be helpful while development. Like as you can see, these both are closing and opening tags, and the stuff between this is the content that belongs between this tag. So when I edit the tag over here to be another tag, it will automatically edit the closing tag, and I think that's a pretty neat feature. So after div and h, I want to show you guys p tag. P is basically for paragraph, and it's also a tag like used to wrap around text. It's similar to div, but specifically for text. All right, and after that, the next thing that we want to see is there's another. There are many more tags, but first I want to show you guys the A tag. A tag is basically used to link to other web pages. For example, these are basically links. So if I write Instagram over here and give it an href property, so this thing inside the tag, look closely like this, I have written inside the opening and closing brackets of the opening tag, and these are known as attributes. So many tags take different attributes, and a tag especially takes an href attribute, and see this comes in a different way, formatted in a different way, and when I click on it, it should take me to instagram.com, but because we are in CodePen, it doesn't allow linking to external sites, because of course this is a sandbox sort of, so that's why. So I'll just give it a hash value to represent that it's linking nowhere. Yeah, and yeah, so this will link nowhere, but we can see the styling of it because it's in CodePen. It doesn't allow us to link to external sites. And now what I want to show you guys is there is a concept known as classes and IDs. What that basically means is you can add these attributes to this first. So a class is basically has no use in rendering the HTML, but is basically used to group multiple elements together, as you can think of it. Because if I provide this with a class of first and this with a class of first, it comes into play when we are diving into CSS, because we use the classes. We usually use classes to select the elements and style them. And now moving on to CSS, first thing, like as you can see, this is div tag, then p tag and a tag. So if you want to style this p tag, we want to give this a color of red. So what we can do is just write p color red, and this will update over here to be of color red. So what this basically does is, this is known as a rule set. Like in CSS, this entity is known as a rule set, and this the token that comes before the curly braces is known as the selector. And this selector, just writing p, means that select the tag p select all the p tags on the HTML and give them a color of red. And we can see that is exactly how it works, because if we make another p tag and another p tag, we'll see that it's automatically styled as red. Yeah, it's automatically styled as red because both of them are p tags and we are targeting by p tag. And another way that we target is through classes. So instead of just targeting by p tag, if I write dot first, then so this div that we gave the class of first and this p tag that we gave the class of first, they get read, not the p tag only. So basically that's how classes help us select HTML elements, and you just got to like prefix a dot before the class name, and that's how you select a class. Now similar to classes, there's another selector that we can use, and for that we need to provide a ID element. So this div tag that has a heading, I gave it an ID of head. Alright, so let's see how we can target this element and change its font size in the CSS. So what we can do is we can write hash and then the ID name, and our ID name is head. Now whatever styles we apply inside this curly braces should target the this div, which basically has a ID of head. So we can make the color as blue. Yeah, so as you see, I targeted it by ID and it changed its color to blue. We can also increase the font size. Basically just write font hyphen size and 18px, and it automatically increased the size of this heading. So how this works is basically there are multiple ways to represent length in CSS, and length is integral to represent, obviously, because that's how you will define different things on your layout. For example, what do you want the font size to be? 18 pixels, and this is simply nothing else but a length, and there are multiple units of length like EM and REMs and whatnot, but in this workshop we are simply going to use pixels to not overcomplicate this thing. So now coming on to how you can represent colors. Some colors are obviously just available, the common colors are available by their name, like I can change this to orange and it turns to orange. So these colors are available just by the name, but there are two other things that I want you to know. First one is RGB. So this is a function inside CSS and it takes three values. First value stands for the red, second value stands for the blue, for the green, and the third value stands for the blue. So basically what this does is, and see this text vanished because we gave it a color of white. So what this does is, it takes three values, red, green and blue, and these can be between 0 to 255, and if all of them are 255, it's the color white, and we can try reducing the blue to 0, and then you see yellow because red and green make up yellow of course. And we can change this to 105 and it's an orangish color. So yeah, we can play around with RGB values to give colors to the text. And another way of giving colors to the text, like colors to anything, text or background, whatever, can be through hex values. So hex values, like we have our normal numbers like 1 2 3 4 5 6, whatever, those are the decimal system. Now there's another system of counting that's known as the hex numbers, and basically we write six alphabets or numbers after the hash symbol to represent a hex number that makes up of red, green and blue values. So for example, I'll write 882125, and this should give it a bluish sort of brownish color. Yeah, so this gives it a brownish color because what it does is, first two values stand for the red and the second two values stand for the green and the last two values stand for the blue. So we're like basically telling it that these are the amount of blues, reds and greens that you want to mix to make this color. And same with red, green, blue, these are just two different ways of like simply saying the same thing in two different ways. So now that we have these basics sorted, if anybody has any questions about these, just drop it in the chat section and we'll get to those questions and move on to the project. If anybody has any difficulty seeing the screen or whatever. Yeah, as Amarnath has mentioned in the comments, the hex system consists of 0 to 9 and A to F. What this basically means is, like, we have 9 digits in a decimal number system, but there are 6 or 16 or 15 numbers in the hex which are 0 to 9. That is basically a normal decimal system, and after 9, A represents 10, B represents 11, C represents 12, D represents 13 and so on until F. Okay, so somebody has asked me to repeat the div tag thing. So div tag is nothing but a way of signifying a division in a page. So like it's just a way to separate some content into something else. Like, yeah, so like I have a div tag over here and I say another div tag. It should show up here in a second. Yeah. So it does nothing for the styling and spacing, nothing like that. What it only does is it separates our element into a different division so that we can style it properly. So let me show you something with this. So I'll give this div a class of div new, and then I can simply target this div using the .div new class. So basically, if I had to specifically target this content, and it would have been a normal text without the div or anything, if it would have been just like this, then I can't target it specifically. But so the div tag helps in, you know, separating elements better so that I can target it through my CSS. I'm sure that that's not the only task it does, but that's one of the functions that it helps us in. So uh, there are a few more concepts that we'll go over before the project. Sorry, my bad for saying that before. So first of all, we want to see the concept of padding and margin. So margin, if I give this div, this I've given this another div tag a class of div new, and I'm going to give it a margin of 10 px. Px just stands for pixels, and you can see that this moved. What it's basically doing is it's applying space all around the element. And I'll show you one thing. We'll give this a border, 2 pixels solid red. So first of all, breaking down this border thing, what first value is to specify how much width we want for the border, like how thick we want the border to be. Second is the style, and the third is the color. So I gave this a border, and now as you can see, there's some space around this outside the border. But if I give it a padding, now there's space inside this box. So what padding does is it increases the space between the content and the tag. Like for example, if for like take this div tag, adding padding increase the space inside this, and adding margin increase the space outside this. So we can also try giving it a background. Yeah. So padding just increase the space around it, inside it, and margin increases the space around it. And now as you can see, this div tag is taking the full length that is available to it. But the thing is, what if you wanted to just take the space that it's needed for it? Because right over here, you see that we've just used different tags, and these things are stacking on top of each other by default. But what if I wanted this link and this div to be in the same line? What I can do is I can give this div a display of inline, and it's now right there along with the link. So what this basically does is, by default, some tags have a display type of block and some have a display type of inline. What block means is it will simply take up the whole space that is available to it, and what inline means is it will just take up the space that's needed for the content. So the div tag is by default a block element, p tag is by default a block element, but the a tag by default is a inline element. So we have just two inline, and we chose this div and changed its display to inline. So basically now it shows just beside the link. I hope that's clear. If there's any doubt in the margin and padding thing and the display thing, because just let me know, because these are important things that we're going to use in a project. Yeah. So basically this is all the fundamentals that you're going to need to make something amazing. Of course, there's a whole lot more to explore, but believe me, this is all the fundamentals that you need. Okay, so someone has requested to show margin and padding again. So now we're going to try that thing with the this div that we have given an ID of head. So I'm going to remove the styling and increase its font size to 20 pixels. I think I should just remove everything else before to maintain sort of clarity for this. So we only have this div now on a page that has an ID of heading. So so now by default we know that div has a type of display of block. So what we can do is, if we have to we can try giving a border to it to see how much space it's taking right now. 2 pixel solid red, and as you can see this is taking up the whole screen, the space available to it. Now if we wanted to increase the margin from the top, if you wanted it to be a little bit more on the bottom, what we can say is margin top 10 pixels, and in just a second this is loading. Okay, sorry, I misspelled, I missed the G in there. Margin top 10 pixels. I don't think that was really visible, the difference. Yeah, so as you can see I gave it a margin top and it bumped it down by 50 pixels. Now if I didn't give it a margin top, it would have increased spacing from all sides, that is top, bottom, left, top, bottom, left and right. But so we have these specific properties also. Top will just increase the spacing from the top and nowhere else. Left will increase the margin from the left, and right will increase the margin from the left, right, and similar with bottom. So this is the margin property that just helps us increase the spacing. There's another thing that you might want to see. If we give this another number 10px, then you see this expands, because this is a shorthand property. Basically 50, the first number is considered for the top and bottom, and the next number is considered for the left and right, and if we give it only one number, it will be considered for all four sides. Now what padding does is, it increases the space inside the box that is containing the element. So if I add a padding of 20px, you see this whole area expands and this gets pushed 20 pixel from the border, and there's more space inside this basically. So margin is to increase the display from the to increase the space from outside of the elements, and padding is to increase the space inside the element. And as I showed, the left, top, bottom, right and the shorthand property for margin, they're same for the padding also. And to now again explain the display property, what we basically what it basically means is, so right, we have another tag, p tag, another para. Let's just give it a second. Yeah, so now these are showing let's say like they're stacked on each other, and it has a 50px spacing from here, because by default both div and para are block level elements. So some elements in some tags in HTML are block level, some are inline. So both of these are block level elements. So if I set the display of head to inline, it should ideally only take the space that is needed for the content. And the another thing to note for inline elements is, you can't specify the top and bottom margin for inline. The margin only for the left and right sides can be specified and will take effect for inline elements. And then our paragraph is also a block element, so it's still showing up on the next line. But if we just target this paragraph, we'll just change this to P. Yeah, see its color change. So, and if we change its display to inline, it should just jump up to the first line, because it should take up just the space that is needed for the content, and not the whole space available to it. And again, somebody is asking, why do we need div tag? as I explained, to basically create divisions inside your elements to target them correctly and stuff. That's why you need div tag. And I just want to show you a couple easy tricks in CodePen. Basically, those are functionality that can help you write code more simply and easily basically help you increase your productivity. So if I want to have a div tag, uh, simply I can write div and then closing div. But simpler than that, I can just write div and hit tab. This CodePen automatically does the completion for us, and this is known as Emmet. It's available in a lot of famous code editors also. And say if we wanted a div with type with the class box, we can say div.box and hit tab. It will make a div for us and give it a class of box. So those are simple features. And again, a lot of times in web development, you need to have placeholder text and stuff. So for that, there's a very common paragraph of text known as lorem ipsum. And rather than pasting it in, uh, CodePen also has this amazing feature that you can just write lorem and then specify how many words and hit tab, and it will basically automatically generate the placeholder text for you. Again, it's not just a CodePen specific feature. I think it comes along with Emmet. So I just wanted to show you guys those two things because I'll be using that while we work on the project. So to just give you guys a view on it, we will be building something similar to this, not like 90-95% similar to this. And I want to show you guys this so that we can keep this as reference and build along and break down how do we need to go about things to build this. So first of all, as you can see, usually when you're building a site, you'll take a top down approach. You'll start from the top and see what elements are needed, and you'll start implementing that basically. So the first thing we need is this. This is a header sort of area for our website, right? So there's a special tag inside HTML known as header. Basically, similar to div, this does no functionality at all, nothing at all, but you can use it to better specify in your markup that this thing does this, this thing is this thing is this. This is known as semantic HTML, that instead of only using divs to specify pages of the elements of your website, you can use the semantic HTML tags like header and nav and stuff to specify the pages and the stuff. So basically, for the header tags, we are first going to need a heading that's going to be the name. So our project is basically a portfolio sort of for a fictional freelancer, right? So we need first the name and these links in our header. So we have the name, and then we'll create an element nav, and we'll create 3 links inside it. Yeah. So we have these 3 links, and we'll just give them a about, project, and contact. Yeah. So those are our 3 links, but as you can see, these are on different lines. Even though a tag is a inline element, h3 is a block type element, and nav is a block type element. So we'll have to specify those as inline. So I'm just going to get rid of all the previous CSS, and another type of selector I'll show you right now. So if we write header and h3, what's it going to do is it's going to select all the h3 tags inside the header. So I can write color to orange, and it should basically change its color, and I'll show you why this matters. Because if we have an h3 outside our header, it won't get affected by this style. Basically, we have given the h3 inside the header of color orange. No other h3s will get affected by this. So basically, in a sense, h3 is a direct child of h header,
and you can say that whatever children h3 are inside the header tag, style them as this. So first of all, I have to change its display to inline. Again, to reiterate, because display inline and block can be a difficult concept to understand initially, the difference between inline and block is, the difference between inline and block is inline elements only take up the space that's needed for the content. Block level elements take up the whole space available to them, basically the whole row. So we have set the header h3 to inline, and then we want to say header nav to inline. So basically, okay, display inline. So basically what this will do is it will bring them along side by side, because they are only taking the space that is needed for them. And now I want to style the header a bit. So let's give it a background color, and we'll specify that using RGB. So we'll give it a little red, a little green, and a whole lot of blue. So this should be a light color, a really light color that is predominantly blue. Yeah, as you can see, this is a really light blue color. But if you want to give it a dark header like we have in this project, so our header is basically dark, what we can do is we can specify 20, 20 and 40. Yeah, so this should give it a really darkish color. And then to change the color of the text, we can say color RGBA 220, 220, 240. Yeah, so as you see, the color property can be used to change the text of the color inside the header, and the background property is used to change the background color. But there's another thing that you will notice here, that these links, the color didn't change for them. That's because you've got to specifically target the links and change the color for them, because those are not just text, they are links, and the color property predominantly only changes the color of the text. And yeah, basically that's why. And so we have set header to nav, but these are side by side right now, and the header stretches to the whole row. And as you can see in this project, we have the links to the other side. Now how we do this is, there's another property known as float. I can say float right. So this will push the nav to the right side, because how this works is, right now it wasn't given any float position, so it said float right, it will float to the extreme right that is available in its parent, and so it just shifted to the extreme right of the parent, right? So I think this looks pretty cramped up, so we'll give a little bit of more padding to the header, because as you guys remember, padding is used to increase the space inside the element. I'll give it 16 pixels, and this should increase the space. Alright, and now to specifically target the links, as we targeted the h3 inside the header, what we'll do is we'll say nav a. What this does is it will tag all the a tags inside the nav, and a tags are basically anchor elements which are used to create the links, as I told you before. And interestingly, these can be used for both internal links and external links. CodePen doesn't allow us external links, but what we can do is we can set these links up to jump between different sections inside our website. So we can so right now links by default have this underline below them, right? So we can say text decoration none, and this basically takes away their underline. And for the color, we can say color RGB 220, 220, 240, basically same as the heading. So now these have the same color. But as you will notice, these links are also side by side because they're all inline elements. So how do we increase the spacing between them? Now, what I told you guys was margin top and bottom doesn't affect inline elements, but margin left and right does. So if I give these links a margin left, what it will do is it should increase spacing between them, each of them. So we'll give it a margin left of 8 pixels, and that should increase the spacing between them, right? So that is basically the use of margin, that you can use it to increase spacing. And now, as you see over here, this is right against the edges of the website, but right here by default we have some margin or padding around the sides. This is because by default the browser or this HTML has some styles applied to it, and we can basically reset it. This is a very basic reset of the styles. You can say padding as 0, margin as 0, and border box box sizing border box. So you don't need to worry about the last thing right now, just this line box sizing border box. Just know that this is for basic reset for our web page. So and this star elements, what this star element does is it selects all the elements on the web page. So if there are some styles that you want to apply to all the elements, you will write this inside the star selector. So for example, if I wanted to change the font of all the elements on the web page, I can say font family is equal to Helvetica. And as you see, the font changed. So another lesson, that to change the font you use font family key, and you can just specify a font. And I really like another font, Verdana, so we just specified the font family inside this, and as this is the star selector, it will apply this to all the elements inside the HTML, to everything basically. So what we can do is, to style our header a little better, we should decrease the font size a bit. You can say font size 18 pixels for the heading, that is the name, and for the links we can set it to somewhere around font size 14 pixels. So another thing in a website that is really important is uniformity. If you're using the same like 18 pixels for this heading and 14 pixels for the nav links, just try to use as similar values as possible throughout your website. So for all H3s you should be ideally using 18 pixels or some, yeah, similar to that. So now, like this was a header tag, now we have another tag known as main. And this, again, to remind you guys that these header, nav, main, these are basically just similar to div. These are block level elements. They do nothing for the styling or the base styles, anything at all. They're just better practice to use these named elements to better separate your markup. And also this helps in accessibility, because imagine if somebody who's a little visually impaired is using your site, so they'll ideally be using a screen reader, and a screen reader can a lot better parse HTML if you use tags like header, nav, main, than making them all div. So instead of like usually what people used to do was they will make everything a div and give this a class header and target this by the class. But what's the point of doing that if the functionality is the same? We can just say that it's a header, so that just makes the stuff better and it's easier for you to even go through your markup and stuff. So this is the main element where all our sections will be. So as you can imagine, there's another tag called section. Again, just a semantic HTML tag. These are known as semantic HTML to better structure your markup. So the first section that we want is, we'll just have the name, and then we'll have a p tag that specifies a tagline sort of something. So yeah, we have this p tag and we have this header h3. So what I'm thinking is it will look much better if it's centrally aligned. So to target this section, I can give it an ID of hero, because ideally the major section that you see once you land to the website, this section, basically the first thing, basically this is known as hero section. So I'm going to name it as ID hero. So we can target this by ID insider HTML, hashtag hero. And to get this text centered, all we have to do is text align center. Yeah, and this brings your text to the center. But now as you again see that this is just sticking to the top of the nav bar and there's no spacing between it, we can give our hero section a padding, and somewhere around 40 pixels should be good. So yeah, and now it's a little more centered and has some breathing space around it. And we'll give it a background same as the header, that was RGB 20 20 40. I hope the RGB thing is clear to everyone. It's just a way of representing a color, red value, green value, and blue value, because like every color can be made through these primary colors. So we specify the value for these three, and it just calculates what the color value should look like. And we'll give the text a color of RGB 220, 220, 240. So the higher the numbers are, the lighter the text is going to be. The lower the number are, they're going to be that dark, because see, 0 0 0, I'll show you 0 0 0 make up black. So from 0 to 255 is the scale from darkness to lightness of that color. So this is completely black, 0 0 0, that's why. And 255 255 255 is basically completely white. So now it has this color. And now what we want to do is I want to add this image. So to add this image, we'll use a image tag. There's just a tag called img which you can use to add images. And as this did autocomplete for me, you can see it takes in two attributes mainly. It can have more, but these are the two important ones. One is src and the other one is alt. So src basically represents the address of that image. We'll put in a URL over here. And alt basically means alt text, that if the image is not being displayed or if you hover over the image, it will display that text in a slight manner. And it's also again good for accessibility, because of course for screen readers it's going to be super easy. And how I got this image was basically, I want to show you guys how simply you can get images for your projects. You can go to Unsplash, and it's basically a site where you can get images for your projects. A lot of photographers that I know use this to upload their work and stuff, and I just search for portrait. Sorry guys, my laptop is lagging a bit with the screen share and stuff. You see this little text was displayed here before, that was also for the alt tag. So if I just click on this image, yeah, and now I'll just right click on it and say copy image location. It will just copy the location of that image for us. So this was the image, and now as you'll see, this will completely distort our website, because it has an arbitrary height and width to it, which we'll need to manually manage. So as we selected other tags, what we'll do is we'll write hashtag hero, because this is the parent element, and we'll do img. And through this, now whatever properties we give to this would be applied to this image. So what we can do is we can give it a width and a height. So width of 96 pixels, and as you see, the height automatically scaled down with the width. And we can also give it a height to give it a specific height, because with the width it automatically scaled down in the aspect ratio. And now you will see that this image seems to be a little distorted because it's not its original aspect ratio. So what we can say is object fit cover, and you see the image looks much better now, because what this basically says is ki, crop the image to this aspect ratio so that it doesn't look distorted. There's another value that you can give to it, and that is contain, that will just shrink down the image inside that width and height to the original aspect ratio. So we want it to be cover because we want it to be this specific size, right? So to make this better, what I'm thinking, we can give a little border to it. And as we saw border, first we specify the width of the thickness of the border, then we specify the style, we want a solid border, and then we specify the color for it. And the color, I want it to be on a little reddish side. So yeah, this is the border that we have around it, and it's 1 pixel, and see, if we bump it up to 5 pixel, the border gets thicker. So I think 2 pixel will be a pretty good value for it. And now another neat trick, you can specify the radius of the border. So for example, if I just set this to 10%, it rounded the corners for this image a bit, it rounded the borders. So if I give it to 20%, it rounded it even more, 40% will round it even more, and at 50% this will be a perfect circle. So see, this is similar to what we had over here, right? Now there's a little more spacing even around the hero section and inside with the elements. So what I did was, while trying this stuff out, I gave it a little margin and it looked pretty neat. So if I give this a margin 16 pixel, sorry, that gave the margin to the whole image. We want to give this margin to the hero section. So it looks a bit disjointed and not a part of the header section. And we can, and these edges look really sharp, and as we use the border radius to round up this image, we used a percentage value over there, but we can specify it in pixels also. Basically we can specify it any form of length, like pixel, em, rem, width, percentage, or pixels. So I specified it as 4 pixels and it rounded the corners a bit. Now to increase the spacing between the elements of this thing, what we can do is we can give the image a little margin on the bottom. No, rather what we should do is we should give this name a margin on the top, because margin bottom feels really indirect to me. What margin bottom does is it will push down the elements below it, but what margin top will do is it will push down the element we are applying it to it itself to basically create the space around it. So margin top is more direct, that's why I like to use it more. So we can say hashtag hero h3, and we can bump its font size down to 18 pixels to maintain that sort of uniformity, and we can give it a little margin on the top. We can say 8 pixel, right? So that increases the spacing between it, and we can similarly target the p tag, and we can say font size 14 pixel and margin top 8 pixels. And also guys, if something in this is confusing or something, you can just type in the chat section. I'm checking it continuously, so if something you want to ask, just type it down there. So this is basically done for the hero section of our app. So next, as you will see, is we have this about me section, right? So for this about me section, again, this seems like a h3 tag and this seems like a paragraph text. So what we'll do this, we'll create another section, like we created the hero section, we'll create another section and add h3 to it, about me, and we'll add a p tag to it, and we'll just use lorem ipsum, the one the shortcut that I showed you guys, to create some placeholder text over here. So this is how it looks right now. But as you saw that we gave the padding to the first hero section too, and we added some margin between the text, etc. So what we can do is we'd have to specifically target this section. Otherwise we'll just name this about. So rather than targeting it specifically, we can target all our section elements and group our styles that are going to be same for all these elements. So I can just say section and I can say padding 40 px. So this increases space around this, and if we just remove the padding now from this thing, it will not matter because the hero section was also a section tag. So these styles will get applied to every section tag. So what you will want to try is make your styles as global as possible. Like you choose the highest level of selectors so that you have to repeat less things, and if you want to change something that's common between all similar elements, you don't have to change it at multiple places. If you write your styles correctly, you'll just have to ideally have to change it at one place, and that should work fine. So that gets done for the padding. And now as I said, we want to maintain some uniformity and style all our h3s and p's in the whole website in specific sizes. So rather than specifying it everywhere, we can just on the top, like we can add this anywhere, but I like to add more global styles on the top. We can say h3 and font size 18 px, because the styles that are going to be common between a lot of elements, just make it as global as possible. And p tag font size 14 pixels, so that styles are p tag also and h3 also. And what we can do is we can remove this font 18 pixel from here, font size. This needs to still go, yeah. Hero image, hero, we can remove the font size from here as well, and we can remove the font size from here as well. So the thing is, there needs to be some spacing between this h3 and this p2, and it's going to be true for all the sections. So rather than specifically adding some margin on the top of the paragraph in the hero section, what we can say is for all the sections, just add a little padding on the top. So see, the text for this remains the same, and this text also goes down, bumps down a little. So just refactoring the code a bit can make your code more maintainable, because if you wanted to change this value for every paragraph in every section, then you would have to change it again and again. But now what you can do is just change it at one place and it will take effect everywhere else. And we can similarly just yeah, we have already moved that thing, so yeah, that's sorted. It will apply that to everything. So now let's look at the next section. Next is the project section, and this is also going to be a section, of course, like we have the hero and the about. So yeah, right over here we'll have another section, and we'll give it an ID of project. So right now giving an ID to the styles that we are not styling it may seem a little extra, but you'll see how this plays into later, because it will help us with linking these nav links to inside our elements page. So now for this thing, we'll add a little markup and we'll say h3 projects. And just a second, as you can see, it's rightly sized and it has the appropriate padding, because we applied those styles globally to all the h3s that are on the page. So that is a benefit of using styles as globally as possible. Try to extract out styles and make them target multiple same elements if you want that uniformity. So after that, what we can do is we'll just add a few divs that represent our projects. So and inside this I want to have an h4 that basically says similarly blogging site or something. So if you look at it right here, right now, it just shows up as an H4, and the reason why I used H4 is in your site you ideally want to have an hierarchy of how you use the headings. So I used H3 for the main headings and then H4 for the little smaller text. Even if you're resizing it later on, you just need to maintain that hierarchy to make it more accessible for the screen readers and stuff. So when you have this, so another neat trick with the emit thing, so like I added this div with the class projects. If I want to have multiple divs with the same class, I can just say div dot projects, and I can specify how many with the multiplication sign, basically the star sign. And if I hit tab right here, it will create four divs for me which have the class project. So one will, and each one of them inside it needs to have an h4. So blogging site, sorry I hit caps lock, and then budget app or whatever, like we'll just give 3 for now, that's enough. Cafe website. So these are just some, you know, fictional projects that we made up to get our data. So right now this looks like this, but as we saw on the project, they styled something like this. So right here comes in the play for padding and margin. What you can do is, right now if we give this h4, so if we select all the projects, and we give them a background color, so that should be 220 1975. If we give them background color, you can see all these are displayed like this. But then what we can do is we can give them a little bit margin top, so that will separate them a bit, maybe a little more than just 8 pixels. And then to increase the space inside the tag, you can say padding 8 pixel, and then you of course might want to change the color because both of these are dark colors which might not look good, which doesn't look good. 220 220 240, and I hope until now like this RGB stuff is clear to everybody. I know this color doesn't look a little ideal, it should be a little more brighter, but that's all right for now. We can bump this up to 230 maybe. Yeah, and again a little bit rounded corners look pretty neat on this sort of cards. So what we can say is border radius 4 pixel, and that will give it a bit of a rounded corner. So that's it for this. Now that we are done with this much, we can now focus on the last section, second last section, that's the contact section. So what we can do over here is we'll create another section and give it an ID of contact. And then as we did for the other sections, we'll give it a heading of contact me. And then the thing that we haven't seen till now is the form tag. So to contain forms like the one we have right over here and the forms that you see everywhere in almost every other web app, you have some kind of form element. You wrap those around in the form tag, and then to add a simple text input, you can say input, and it says input of type text. And we'll see right over here with minimum borders, it has added this input, and that's the default styling for the browser of the input. Now for the input, you also want to have a label that basically a little text that's available on top of it saying name, because we want this input to be where basically somebody who wants to contact us can input their name. Now since we can see that label and input are a group and we are going to have multiple labels and inputs, yeah, we're going to have multiple labels and inputs, so to separate them into different divisions, we can wrap them all around divs, and I'll just give it an ID of form group. So we do this, and to style your code a little better, you should always look at indenting your code. What that basically means is uh, like this, that div is a child element of form, so it's just placed like written two spaces or two a tab ahead of the form element where it started, and similar for label and input, right? So that's for your form group, and we'll add this div form group to each one of these. Yeah, we'll add this to each one so that we can, they're gonna come in really helpful to increase the spacing between these elements and stuff. Yeah. So now if we'll see, our form looks really ugly. It's just form for the sake of it. We'll change this to email and we'll change this to message. So now let's get on to styling our forms better now that we have written the markup for it, because this is the approach that you're going to usually take. You're going to write the markup and then you're going to see what stylings you need and you're going to write the CSS for it. So for the form, what I'm going to do is just to increase a little more spacing on the top of the form with the contact element, you can say form margin top 10 px. Yep. So that just spaced it out a little, and to increase the padding between all the form groups, we can target margin between all the form groups. We can target all of them and say margin top 8 pixel. So this will increase the spacing between each of these groups. So now what looks better is that if the labels are on the top of inputs. So as we saw before when we tried to make this header, what we did was we made block elements to inline so that they appear in one line. But both the input and the label are inline elements. So if we make even one of them as block, it should come in different lines like this. So if we target the label element and if we change the display to block, just yeah, so now you see they appear in separate lines, and in my opinion label needs to be a little smaller, font size 12 pixels. Yeah, so that looks a little more neater, and we can increase a little more margin between all these elements. Yeah, so now about styling these inputs, because these don't look ideal as it is, we're gonna take these up. We're gonna select all the inputs. So first of all, what we can do is when you type some text into it, first of all, there's no space around it and the text is also really small. I think it's somewhere around 12 pixels by default. So I can set the font size to be 14 pixels. Cool. So now it's a little bigger. And what you want to do is increase a bit of padding. So 10 pixels top and bottom, 8 pixels left and right. So as I showed before, this is basically just a shorthand property that the first number specifies the padding on top and bottom, and the second number specifies the padding on left and right. So now right now also it looks not ideal, it doesn't look right, so we'll just decrease the padding a bit. So this looks a little better, but still not right in my opinion. So first of all, I want to give this whole section, contact section, a background, because we've been like coming from white background for both these sections to increase a little more interest in our website, like make it a little more designed. We'll just add a background to the contact section. So we had given it an ID. We'll select it by that ID and we'll say RGB 20 40. So this will give it a background, and it should have, I made a typo or something. Yeah. So yeah. Now as you see, it gave it a background, and now we have to give it a lighter color. So we can say RGB. We can specify 20 40. Yeah, that should have ideally given the color. I must have made a simple typo or something. Just give me a second. Never mind, we'll just try writing in white. Yeah, so I must have made some simple, yeah. So I made a silly error that I was making it as the same color as the background. It had to be 220, 220 and 240. And as you can see, it just styled the color of the label and stuff correctly. And but we gave this a color, but the form inputs still have a dark color as text, and that is exactly what we want. This is one time that the base styles and the higher specificity is working in our favor, because if you remember, these were A tags which we had to specially select to change their color, but form elements didn't change the color, and that is the default behavior. We'd have to specifically select the input element and change the color inside it to change the color of this text. But right now this is exactly how we want it, so we're not gonna do that. So for the input, now that we have this, we can give it a bit of border radius too, and that should look a little more decent. But there's a very subtle border around it that isn't making it look nice. If I give it a higher border radius, it will be more visible. There's this shiny border around the input tag by default, which we'll get rid of by simply saying border none. And now that border goes away, so the input tag also shrinks down a bit, the spacing. 4 px. Yeah, that looks decent in my opinion. Now to increase the width for these elements, we can just specify a width in the inputs and say it as 100%. So what this basically says is, width 100% says that just take up the space available to it, and the space available to it is the whole form section. So if we go into the form and to see how much space is available to it, and give it a background of orange maybe, you can see that this whole area is the form section, and the inputs are taking the whole width of the form area. So to size them more appropriately, we can just say width of the form 70%. So it will say that basically the whole form tag, the form element, should take up the 70% of the space available to it, and the input are taking the 100% of the space available to it, which is the form element. So that is how you can more universally, size your elements like this. And let's just get rid of this orange. The last thing that you need in this form is a button to submit. So a button is also there as a tag. We can just say button send, and by default this also has really ugly styling, which we will get rid of. So yeah, so to target this button, what I'll do is I'll say all the buttons inside the form. Yeah, so first of all I want to remove the already present default border from it, and that already makes it smaller. And then I'll increase some padding inside it by 8 pixels maybe. Okay, and we'll give it a margin top of 8 pixels, and we'll give it a little more color. So we'll give it a background that we have using this orange, that we've been using this orangish color, reddish orangish color. It was RGB 220, 90 and 75. Yeah, so now that it has this color, it should also have a lighter text color, and we'll give it the color that we've been using, RGB 220, 220, 240. Yeah, and we should increase the font size of it because ideally you want the buttons to be a little more visible. So I'll just bump up the font size to 14 pixels. Yeah, and again we've been using the theme of rounded corners throughout the website, like in this hero section and these projects, that they have a little rounded corners, not sharp edges, similar to these inputs. So we can just say border radius 4 pixel. That will just round up its border and make it look more clean, right? So this is done for our contact section. After the contact section, the section that we have is the footer. Now as you've been following along this basically ideology of using semantic tags, so the header was styled with the tag known as a header, and this whole of this area is inside a main section. So there's also a similar tag known as footer, and inside that we'll just put up a link, and we'll say for more resources to learn front end dev, visit this link. Yeah, so this was a blog post that I wrote for you guys. This basically collates a whole lot of resources for front end development and how you can get started, tutorials and stuff for you to get started front end development. I'm just gonna add this URL over here. If we try clicking this URL, it will give us an error because, as we saw, linking external links like other website inside the CodePen was giving us an error. So right now it looks like this. What I want to do is increase the spacing inside the footer element. So if I say 40 pixels top and bottom and 10 pixels on the side, it looks much more neater. It has a lot of breathing room. And then I'll set its background to this orangish color, that is 220, 790 and 75. And again, so you remember from before, if I try setting its color to white, it won't work because a tag has a default color by before. So we will have to specifically target this a tag, footer a, and set color to RGB 220, 220, 240. Yep. So now it looks like this, and we'll just bump down the font size to 14 pixels and text align center. Okay, we will have to put text align center inside the footer because that is where our thing is. So that just centers the link, right? So this is basically a simple blog portfolio site for a fictional person, and there are a lot of other things that I want to show you guys, but that is if you guys are clear with this much. So if there's anything that you want me to repeat about or explain again, then just type in the chat box and I'll do that for you guys. I'll just wait for a minute for you guys to think of that and ask me if there's any doubt or something. So somebody asked, when you press send there, how does it basically go to the intended person or site? So right now it won't, because there's nothing linked to this form, but ideally you'll use JavaScript, or this form will directly point to some URL where it will get submitted. And yes, it is responsive. It is not ideal because you might want to show stuff a little differently on the bigger fonts. Like, it doesn't look pretty, but it's responsive. But I like made it with the purpose of this size to just demonstrate you guys. For adding proper responsive, you'll need another two other very important concepts of CSS. Three concepts basically: media queries, flexbox, and grid. Those are all intermediate to advanced concepts, and responsiveness is an advanced concept, so that's why I didn't go into that for now. So somebody asked how to publish the site. So ideally you'll have your files, like it won't be in this code pen. Ideally your website will be in files, that index.html and CSS files, and there's this amazing service Netlify that lets you host your site, static sites, for free. So if somebody wants to host their site, you can basically check Netlify out. And also GitHub has a feature known as GitHub Pages, which can let you host your sites. Again, that is out of the scope of this workshop for now. And yeah, of course, if you want to share this code pen, then you can just share this link with anybody you want to, and of course you'll be provided with the link for this code pen after this. So just a couple other things that I want to show you. First of all, there's a set sizes of font and colors that we have used throughout the site, and mind you, this stuff is a little more above the beginner level, but nevertheless it's good to know. So as you can see, we have used specific font sizes and specific colors, and we have had to replicate those everywhere. So if you have experience with any programming language, basically there's a concept of variables. So if you haven't had any experience, then don't worry also, because variables are just different placeholders for your values that you can assign your values to it. So if I want to have a placeholder for dark color, I have this double hyphen sign, then the name dark, and I can just assign it this value. Yeah, I can assign it this value. And how this works is, don't worry about like the internals or something, just try to understand the overall concept, that basically we are just declaring a variable that is hyphen hyphen dark, and this holds the value this RGB 2040. So if you want to replace this everywhere, we can just say var and double hyphen variable name. So we have to like say var open parenthesis and the variable name close parenthesis. So what I can do is, rather than putting the specific value everywhere, trying to remember that everywhere, I can just replace it everywhere with var dark. So let's see where else we have used it. Yeah, so for the contact section also var dark. So as you see, it's still the right color. So we would ideally do this for every color that we have, like this light color and this orangish pinkish color, peachish color basically. So that is the demonstration of how you can use variables. You will have this colon root and open curly brace, close curly brace, and here you can define all your variables. Like you can define another variable like text lg. This would be your largest text size ideally, and instead of just writing 18 pixel everywhere, I can write var. So it really helps you in your development process, because one, you don't have to repeat your values everywhere. Next, and the second thing, that you maintain uniformity, because you don't have to repeat those values and you will just use the name for it. Okay, so somebody also asked how to add animations in a website. So this is something that I wanted to keep if we had time, and I guess we can extend it till 8. So I won't go into animations per se, but transitions. So what transitions do is, for example, if where is that nav? Yeah. So we have this nav, and we have these links. So if we wanted to change the color on hover, if we wanted to say nav a hover, like so, this basically means if you move over these, we want to change their properties, we can say color, and I'll change this to maybe the orangish color, that is 220 90 75. So as you can see, whenever I go over it, it just abruptly changes its color. But if you wanted to make that color change subtle, what we can do is we can add transition. The first thing that you have to specify is the time for how long you want it to take to change the color. I say 1s, that is 1 second, and then you say what property you want to change, that is color. And the next thing is linear, that is the timing function. Don't get into too much right now, you can search all about timing functions later on. So right now it should take 1 second to change its color from this light color to orange. As you can see, it's taking that long. So we can also like ideally have 0.25 seconds, I guess. Yeah, and that looks much quicker and much smoother. So that is one way you can add your basically basic transitions, not animations but transitions. Okay, so somebody else has asked whether it is default the header gets the top portion. No, it's nothing like that. I could have even named this footer and it would have still worked, but it's just because HTML by default gets parsed up from top down. Like this is the general order of the HTML page, that first we have the header, then we have the main section, then we have the footer. We have written it like that. That's why it's getting the top portion. Yeah. So another thing that, two things that I actually forgot was the really important things, that to these input elements you can add a placeholder text. What that basically means is you can add another attribute over here, placeholder, and say example anything. Okay, so what this means is it will show it over here, and when you start typing in, the placeholder text vanishes. So when the user hasn't typed anything, the placeholder will get displayed, and it is really useful for displaying helper text or whatever to the user. Okay, so somebody is asking how to set cookies. That is out of the scope for this workshop, because it is you do that through JavaScript. And another thing that we wanted to do was make sure that these links work internally. So if I click on project, it should take me down to the project section, and right now they're linked to nowhere. So this set, so we just need to say hash. Yeah, so now it's back. Sorry for that error. So how we can link internally is we have given these sections an ID, right? So this project section has an ID, this about section has an ID, the contact section also has an ID. So in the href, rather than mentioning any URL, we can mention the ID of those we can mention the we have to just specify the ID of that section. So if I say for a href hashtag about, and then I click on this, it should just jump us down to the about section. So we can do that for project and hashtag contact. Yep. So now this should be for project, it jumps down to project, or for about it jumps down to project, same for project, and same for contact, it just jumps down to those sections. So this is how you can link the two internal sections. And I still think this 0.25 is too large. We can set it to be something like 0.15 or something. Yeah, so right here you can, you will have to tweak around and tweak and play around with these transitions to get the right effect. Okay, so another thing, another important property that helps us style the page a lot better is box shadow. So box shadow, I'll just show you what it does and then explain. 4px, 8px, 0 RGBA, 0 0 0 1. So as you can see, there's a little black section around, black shadow sort of around the hero section, and now it's sort of blurred. So what it does is basically box shadow helps us create a shadow around our elements. So the first number is the X amount, basically the horizontal shadow. The next number is the Y shadow, the vertical shadow on the bottom, and the next thing is the blur radius. So how much we want to blur the shadow. And this you guys are seeing for the first time, RGBA. First values are the same, RGB specify red, green and blue, and the last one specifies the opacity. Basically it stands for alpha, which we can use to change the opacity, and if we set this to 0.5, the shadow is much softer. Yeah, so I think that's about it for this session. If you guys have any other questions, any other doubts, just let me know, and be sure to check out this blog post because this will really help you kickstart your stuff, because it has a lot of resources, YouTube courses, projects, tutorials, blogs, and platforms also that are worth checking out. So definitely check this out to continue forward. And if you guys have any questions, any doubts, just we can take 5-10 minutes to answer some questions. And also, if you guys want to contact me, just drop me a message on Instagram at manan.code.